Hello and Happy New Year! I wanted to start off the year by making a video about this lens. This is the Simera 50mm by Thypoch. It's a 1.4 lens in M-mount. Why this video? Well, because you can never have enough 50mm lenses, of course. I love my 50mm lenses, so when this lens was announced, I reached out to Thypoch and asked if I could test it. No money changed hands, they sent it to me to review for a month or two. Right after this video, I'm gonna send it back, so my opinions are my own. Thypoch has nothing to say about this video, just so that you know, nothing has changed in 2025. Now, as you can see, this is a fairly compact and small, light 50mm lens. And if you know the Simera 28 and 35, it's pretty similar in size, weight and design. It's all metal and glass, it's pretty sturdy, yet it feels very fluid in operation. It comes with a metal lens hood and it comes with a metal lens cap, both with and without the hood, and with a plastic rear cap. Now, this is a full manual lens, so you can adapt it to pretty much any camera system that you want, but you won't get any EXIF information, autofocus and things like that. Now, the focus ring comes with a focus tab, which I found very handy, and the focus throw is about 90 degrees, which in my opinion is perfect for speed, yet being precise enough to work with this lens. Now, if you don't know what focus throw is, that's basically the range between the closest focus and the farthest focus. So, like you see here, it's about 90 degrees, which is pretty fast and still pretty accurate. The close focus is 45 centimeters and there is a soft stop at 70 centimeters. And that's because if you're using a Leica M rangefinder camera, you can only focus as close as 0.7 meters reliably with the rangefinder focus system. So the soft stop gives you a heads up. Now, that doesn't come without its downsides, but we'll talk about that later. The aperture ring can be clicked or declicked, so when you're doing photography you can feel the clicks, which is nice for that tactile feedback of which aperture you are using or when you're changing it. But for video it's better if you use it declicked for a smooth transition in aperture. Like with all the Simeras, I wish that the clicks would be a bit more positive, but that's my personal opinion. You have this little system of the red dots which indicates the depth of field, but I feel like with a 50mm lens the dots are so close together, so it's not very accurate, so it doesn't make much sense to have this kind of depth of field scale. It's much more usable on wider lenses, I think. When it comes to price point of this lens, it's an interesting topic. On the one hand, it's not cheap. You could get a autofocus lens for about the same kind of money. But if you look at the higher end manual lenses of, let's say, Zeiss or Voigtlander, then this is actually a pretty good deal. And if you look at a Summilux 50, then this is a very, very good deal. And in my opinion, when it comes to image quality and character, build quality even, this lens is pretty much in the same range as those Zeiss's or Voigtlanders or even the Leica. So depending on how you look at things, you could see this as a rather expensive lens, or you could see this as a very cheap lens. Currently, this lens is only available in the Leica M-mount, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see it in many other mounts very soon. Talking about the Leica M-mount, In my previous review of the 35mm version of this lens in X-mount, I said I would rather buy it in M-mount. The M-mount is a very versatile lens mount that can be adapted to pretty much any mirrorless camera system. On top of that, it also is the mount that probably gets you the most compact adapters to use it on another camera system. I tested this lens on my Fujifilm X-H2 because that is a very good camera to use adapted lenses with. The center part of the lens is always the best, and when problems occur, it's usually around the edges of the lens. So when using a full frame lens on a cropped sensor body like the X-H2, you're basically making it a bit too easy on the lens to review it because you're only using the best portion of the lens. Therefore, I did something that I haven't done in a very long time, and that is to use a full frame camera with this lens as well, because I know not all of you use crop sensor cameras because people are interested in how it will perform on a full frame camera. I tested it on a Leica SL2S. So next to my usual cropped sensor Fujifilm bodies for this review, I also use this lens on a full frame camera. On a technical level, this lens is good, but maybe not absolutely great. It's sharp without being super sharp. There's some vignetting in the corners wide open, but you can easily fix that in post. Color, contrast and micro contrast seems very good without being groundbreaking. But all these technical, measurable things don't mean much to me. It's all about the character of a lens. And I have to say, despite that I know this is very subjective, I really love the way the world looks through this lens. The sharpness of what you focus on is on point without being overly aggressive. I find it very pleasing for portraits and pictures of people in general. The out of focus areas are smooth and nice, and thanks to the 14 aperture blades, the bokeh balls and everything always look pretty nice. The transition between the in-focus parts and the parts that are out of focus is just magical. It's just beautiful. Flare, chromatic aberrations can be observed, but it's very well controlled and it's nothing special, nothing that bothers me. Even stop down a little bit, there's still some vignetting. It doesn't disturb me. In fact, in all the pictures I took, I didn't bother once to remove the vignette because I think it only adds to the look of this lens. In short, I feel like everything you point this lens at looks just a bit more beautiful. Remember that soft stop at 0.7 meters. It's handy for Leica M shooters, but it can be a bit annoying for the rest of us. I find when I'm making portraits, I'm often around that 70 centimeter distance. And then you kind of get stuck, and then to smoothly focus, you have to overcome that soft stop a little bit, which is slightly annoying, but you get used to it pretty quickly. What I seem to do is to keep it at at that soft stop and then move a little bit forwards and backward if I am focusing in that range. I like the fact that the lens doesn't change length when you're focusing, so it's an internal focusing lens, but what I don't like is that that front element moves in and out of the housing of the lens. And I can imagine that this is a point where dust might get into the lens, so I would advise to put like a very good UV filter in front of it, definitely when you're working in dusty environments. I love this lens. It's relatively light and compact. It's a fun lens to use and it fits my aesthetic preferences really well. So if you're in the market for a manual all-round 50mm lens, I think the Simera is definitely a lens you should take a look at. The pictures are pleasingly natural, with a little bit of vignette, but nothing too vintagey, nothing too extreme, so it has that really nice mix of modern and vintage. I shoot mostly on APS-C sensors, in which case this lens becomes like a short telephoto lens, which is great for portraits, but I feel like this lens is even better on a full frame camera. The sides of the lens just add something to the rendering, add something to the magic of the lens when using it on a full frame camera. That said, it is still a very usable lens on APS-C as well. Let me conclude by saying that I have about 10 different 50mm equivalent lenses, and I tried many more. And this Simera is one of my favorites. I might add it to my ever-growing collection of 50mm lenses. That's it for this video. I have another lens review coming up soon. I may try to do some other videos as well. I hope I can do a bit more in 2025. Thanks for watching and I hope to see you soon in the next video. Bye.